Welcome back. We are talking to Lieutenant General Kuldip Singh Brar and trying to clear some of the cobwebs which relate to Operation Blue Star. General Brar, is it true that some people actually surrendered on the morning of June 6 after the firing had stopped?
Yeah, after the firing stopped, and there was a rush out from the Akal Takht and other places, people trying to escape. Well, some people, about 20 of them, raised a white flag and came out of the Akal Takht, and we sent our soldiers to take charge of them. They said they would like to surrender, so we said, what's happened? So they said Bhindranwale is dead. So the officer asked them to show him where Bhindranwale's body is. They went and recovered Bhindranwale's body and General Shabeg Singh's body. So these people had given up the fight and wanted to surrender when they realized that they can't carry on without Bhindranwale's leadership.
Where exactly was Bhindranwale's body found?
I think on the first floor.
First floor of the Akal Takht?
Of the Akal Takht. And Shabeg Singh's in the basement.
In what shape was Shabeg Singh's body? Was he, I think your book mentions that he was still clutching
yeah, he was clutching, he had his carbine in his hand.
So it's difficult to exactly establish what time the two of them died.
No, difficult to establish, but I would figure out that they must have died just minutes before the rush took place and people started surrendering.
Which is about 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock?
Around about 6 o'clock. And amazingly, much later in the day, we were receiving messages from Delhi. The information broadcasting minister was H.K.L. Bhagat. We were being queried that is Bhindranwale actually dead? We said, of course he is dead. His body was put on a slab of ice. His supporters, his followers, they've come, they've touched his feet. The intelligence agencies and the police have come and identified the body. We're getting ready to hand over the body to the family. He says, because we have news that he has escaped and he's in Pakistan. And they're going to show him on television on the 30th of June. So I said, Mr. Bhagat, there's nothing I can add to that. If they're going to show him on television, you please watch it. As far as I'm concerned, he's dead. So these sort of stories were being spread and whipping up the emotions of the
So population. What happened on June 30 when Bhindranwale was supposed to appear on Pakistan television?
Nothing happened. I was also awake, watching television.
You also watched PTV?
Of course. We were all waiting to see him appear on television, but we knew he's not going to appear on television. So there was no announcement, there was nothing.
Who cremated the bodies of Bhindranwale and
his
Shabeg
family,
and others?
His family. His family.
But I thought the army had arranged it.
We handed over the body to the family and we gave them all the help that they needed, but they did the cremation.
With the benefit of hindsight, would it not have been better if you had used more Sikh battalions, more Sikh troops in storming of the operation, because they would have known the inside of the Golden Temple better?
Well, I don't know how much time was available to do all this, you know. As far as my division is concerned, I had 2 Sikh battalions. I used both of them.
But I don't think they were part of the assaulting troops.
Of course they were. They were very much part of the assaulting troops. So, and desertions took place later on, but not one soldier from my division deserted because they saw everything that was happening. They realized that this was necessary.
You also mentioned in your book that very scant information, very little information was available about the weapons inside and the kind of fortification build-up inside.
The police gave us no information at all. They told us there are about 500 to 600 people inside, and there may be about 500 weapons of World War II vintage, some 12-bore guns, 303 rifles, this, that and the other.
But General Brar, the police say that they had very pinpointed information. They had listed out the weapons inside. Could it not be that either the army didn't believe this or thought the police was mixed up too?
The police had no information. Police had no information at all, let me tell you. Weeks in advance, the police had sort of washed their hands off this. They were mortally scared. When DIG was killed inside the Golden Temple and thrown outside into the gutters, they realized that they better keep away from this. They knew weapons were coming in the
car seva trucks,
the trucks which are bringing in
grain,
etc. They knew all this was happening. They didn't stop it. They didn't take any action to stop it. They knew all these houses outside the Golden Temple had been taken over by militants. They didn't take any action to remove the militants from there. They just watched quietly. They didn't do anything. They were ineffective, totally ineffective.
Lieutenant General S.K. Sinha, the former Western Army commander, he had once mentioned that when he was the Western Army commander, he had laid down a procedure to carry out an operation in a religious place, particularly the Gurdwara. This is after the experience of the Mehta Chowk Gurdwara. Did you have a look at the laid down procedure of General Sinha, or was this shown to you, made available to you?
No, the first time I'm hearing of such a thing. And what are those, if for my good information?
Since these people claim to be deeply religious, the people inside who are armed, possibly if they were made to surrender their weapons before the Guru Granth Sahib and not the army, they may have agreed.
Do you think they were religious, those who were inside? Because if they were religious, would they have been living on the first floor of the Akal Takht?
They at least claimed they were religious.
Would they be living on the first floor of the Akal Takht when the Granth Sahib is brought in every evening from the Harmandir Sahib and kept in the basement? Would they be living on top and carrying out ablutions, etc. on top? Would they be fortifying the Golden Temple? Would they be having a grenade making factory in the Golden Temple? Would they be having explosives inside the Golden Temple if they were religious? I think they should be having Kara Prasad and all there, not explosives and grenades.
So you don't think this kind of an operation or this kind of an effort would have worked?
No, definitely not. We would have been under siege. Then people say, why didn't you carry out a siege? If we had carried out a siege, in the next 24 hours, we would have been under siege. They would have been all around us. Then what do we do? Do we look towards the Golden Temple or do we look outside?
How did these reports circulate and float around that the army had carried out some kind of a rehearsal in Chakrata or in Sarsawa?
No. What I was told much later is that the Force 22, whatever it is, Establishment 22, Special Frontier Force, initially the government felt that if such a thing happens, they are going to give them this task to carry out. And that they made some models and they rehearsed it and they made some plans. And then it was discussed and decided that they were incapable of doing it. The army had nothing to do with it and didn't even know about it.
So in that case, don't you think possibly if more para-commando battalions, more SSF were actually involved, it may have helped?
We found that there was no difference between SFF and normal infantry when you're carrying out these type of ground operations. Every infantry battalion has got commandos, commando units. They're equally trained. SFF are trained for more clandestine type of operations. So we did have some SFF, but what were they able to do? They weren't able to, we wanted them to get into the Harmandir Sahib and safeguard Harmandir Sahib. We wanted them to get into Akal Takht. They weren't able to do it. So they were no better than our normal infantry.
On the date of the operation, apparently the operation was launched on the night of June 5 and finished early morning on June 6. Of course, you've written about it in your book also, but don't you think, again with the benefit of hindsight, if the whole operation had been delayed by about 2 to 3 days, not much difference would have come about, but a lot of pilgrims' lives could have been saved?
I can't comment on that because these are political decisions as to whether it could have been delayed 2 days or 3 days or 4 days. There are many people who say, there are some people who say that actually some sort of a secret communication was received by Indira Gandhi from maybe the KGB to say that that Khalistan is about to be declared. And if it is declared, Pakistan forces will cross the border. There's a possibility of Punjab police deserting and joining in Khalistan. The Hindus from Haryana, from Punjab would be rushing out to Haryana. The Sikhs from Haryana and Delhi would be rushing into Punjab. The flag of Khalistan would be raised.
But isn't that too much of a supposition?
Well, everything is a supposition here, you know.
No, why I am saying this is that even if the Akali Dal had launched its morcha on June 3 as they were trying to do, even if Bhindranwale had made some kind of announcement, I don't think the situation could not be handled. It could still be handled.
That is something, I'm sure that Mrs. Gandhi with her cabinet and her advisors, they must have sat together and discussed this. As you know, even her broadcast was delayed. When she came on, she was supposed to broadcast, I think, at 9 o'clock and delayed half an hour or 45 minutes. I believe that she was still trying, through her emissaries, to resolve this issue with the Akali leaders and the SGPC about the morcha.
Then I remember there is a lot of resentment on this particular aspect, and that's why I want to ask you this. Sometimes in May 1985, the President of India gave the awards, gallantry awards, to some of the people who were involved in Blue Star. This included this captain that you mentioned. I think 5 Ashok Chakras were given, 12 Kirti Chakras, some Shaurya Chakras were given. Do you think it is right to award one's own soldiers for an action against one's own people?
No, they're not being awarded for an action against their own people. They're being rewarded for an action that they took to safeguard the integrity of the country at personal risk, and they gave their life, or they gave their blood against all odds. I mean, it's for an act of bravery. So it's not a question of an act of bravery against your own.
General Brar, the argument is that the heroes of 1857 mutiny are those days in the units which took part. Those units don't celebrate that as battle honors.
You tell me, if you as a military commander send your troop in for a certain action and he displays gallantry beyond the call of duty, do you not reward him for it? It's not a question of rewarding him for fighting against his own people. It's for an act of valor beyond the call of duty, which he has been ordered to carry out. You have to reward him. I can't imagine you not rewarding a person.
Other thing that happened in June 1984 were these mutinies in some of the army units. Why do you think this happened?
The question is, there were a lot of stories being floated around. After this, a whole lot of stories get floated around, and it reaches Ranchi and Pune, and people get emotionally charged. They are told that the Granth Sahib was burned. They are told that the Golden Temple has been brought down. They don't have time to think. They are mentally disturbed. They are emotionally charged, and they mutinied. Why didn't even one soldier from all the Sikh troops which were under my command mutiny? Because they saw everything for themselves. So where leadership was poor.
I think that's a very valid point you raised. Now, your troops did not mutiny because they saw things for themselves.
Yeah.
But the problem was that in a lot of other places, no information was given out. Even senior officers were not in the know of what was going on.
So in one aspect, when this thing happened, it should have, the leadership, the commanding officers, the brigade commanders should have been able to explain to their troops why it happened.
But only if they were explained about it themselves. I believe a lot of senior officers even did not know what was going on.
That I don't know. All I know is that I knew what was going on, and I spoke to all my troops about it, each one of them.
Now, the other thing which I remember happened in 1984 was a lot of looting by some of the troops around the Golden Temple. I think a particular unit was 26 Madras, which had indulged in a lot of looting.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
I believe there were court of inquiries which established this, General Brar.
I'm not aware of it. I'm not aware of it because as long as I was there, there was no looting whatsoever.
The other thing, you mentioned this in your book, that some people were indeed shot with their hands tied behind. You explained how it happened. You were very candid about it in your
No,
book.
I've said there were no. In my book, I've said the question doesn't arise, and this is a false story put out by Chelane. We didn't tie anyone's hands behind their backs and shoot them. There's no question about it.
No, not exactly in this manner, but there were some people, I think this is how we explained it in your book, that some people had been arrested, their hands had been tied behind, and then there was a commotion. One of them tried to. You explained how it happened.
That's a different matter.
But the fact is that some people did.
We didn't line them up and shoot them.
Yeah, but was action taken against the soldier who actually indulged in this kind of shooting?
I'm not aware of it. I'm not aware of any such report being made that people were shot.
No, as I said, the way this incident happened, was there an inquiry as to how this happened?
I can't recollect.
Now, the other thing, there's been a lot of criticism, and this impression continues to, remain, that much more force was used than was necessary. How would you comment on that?
I don't think more force was used, because even with this force, we weren't able to achieve the task in the time frame that we wanted to. I mean, in the manner we wanted to. We had to bring in additional forces.
So now this is an incident which the whole operation took place about 28 years ago. How do you think a sense of closure can come about?
A sense of closeness can come about if the Sikhs, the educated Sikhs, look at things in a dispassionate manner. I mean, look at the events and convince themselves that such a thing shouldn't happen in future. A place of religion should never be turned into a fortress in future. It should remain a place of religion, and we should not use force to achieve our ends inside places of religion.
General Brar, it's now almost 28 years since the operation. I'm sure you must have kind of done a lot of introspection. You obviously justified it that as a disciplined soldier, as a loyal soldier, this is what you did, and this is exactly how it should have been done. This is how you felt then. Do you still feel the same?
Definitely. I still feel the same.
Does it occur to you that in history, possibly in Sikh history, your name may not find a very bright mention?
As a soldier, I did what I was required to do, and I carried out an order which I considered to be a legitimate order. I made sure that minimum force was used. I made sure that places of religious importance were safeguarded to the extent possible. There's nothing better I could have done.
But does it bother you that in Sikh history your name would be written in black letters?
Let it be written in black letters. It's already written in black letters in many places. As it is, many people want me dead. Well, let them have me.
I notice there is a lot of stuff which is being written on the net about you.
I know.
So I'm sure that bothers you.
Of course it does. It does, but I can't put an end to it.
It is now 28 years since the operation. Now, I'm sure people want to know how you feel about it. People will want to know that today, do you regret what you did, or you still justify what you did?
Listen, I have always regretted that it had to be done. I regretted that the situation developed the way it developed. I wish he had seen reason and come out of the Golden Temple. I wish he had not preached violence. I wish he had not disfigured the Golden Temple. I wish he had not treated religion the way it should be treated inside a place of worship. I wish so. And I wish a task of this nature could have been avoided. But I do not, there's nothing more I can say beyond that.
Is it true that one of your relatives who lives in Canada initially was very upset after the operation?
London. Yeah. Yeah.
And later, after he heard you out, his views changed?
My mother's brother, my mama, he lived in London. How many times I stayed with him. He was a happy-go-lucky chap. We used to go to the pubs, we used to have a drink there, he used to go out boating. And when this operation took place, overnight he started Japji Sahab and going to South Block and growing his beard, and became suddenly very religious. He felt that this had been an attack on his religion, and he openly said it. He sent word to my parents and to all our relations that I won't spare this fellow, I will kill him. I don't need the Sikh militants to kill him, I'll kill him. And we didn't speak to each other for years and years and years. And he would come to Chandigarh and I wouldn't see him and he wouldn't see him.
Did his views change later?
Later, he was suffering from cancer and he was lying in hospital in London. So I felt I should see him in hospital. So I went in and I held his hand and I said, Bunty, I'm very sad. I hope you get okay. And tears were coming down his eyes, right down his cheeks. He held my hand and he said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's my mistake. Anyway, I left the hospital and a few days later he died.
Then there was another person in Canada, I believe, who was very critical of you, and later he helped you translate the book?
No, he wrote me a letter. He said, I was very critical of you and of the operation from whatever I had heard. A very educated man. He said, but after having read your book and after having spoken to many people who know the true facts of the whole thing, I feel I now respect you. You did a job which you had to do. And you didn't destroy the temple, you cleansed up the temple from the evil that was inside there. And I have all respect for you.
Did you, towards the end of General Sundarji's life, get to meet him and discuss the operation?
So many times we discussed the operation. And towards the end of his life, when he was dying, I went to Delhi. I met him in R&R hospital. I went for his cremation. I had great regard for that gentleman. I think he was a great soldier, a visionary. We have very few today in the army of his caliber. I have a great respect for him.
Did you ever discuss the operation with your parents, with your father, who was himself a military officer?
No. There was nothing to discuss with him, nor did he want to discuss the operation. He knew that I'm carrying out a duty which I have to carry out.
General Brar, have you visited the Golden Temple after June 84?
No.
No desire to?
No.
Why is that?
Because I don't want to be reminded of the event.
How did the operation change your life? We all know, unfortunately, that you are a marked man.
Yeah. It has changed my life. I mean, it's put my family in danger. It's put me in danger. We aren't able to lead a normal life. And with all these things coming out now on YouTube and Facebook and Google and all these groups which are coming out with fresh stories about how all sorts of untruths and all sorts of malicious facts about me.
There is a mention that you've written a fresh book.
Yeah. There's a mention in Google. There's a forum called Sikh Sangat or something. And if you go to Google and you type my name in, and you'll find amongst the various articles there, this is one. It says Sakka Neela Tara. And it says, one fellow, it's a discussion forum, and he says, General Brar has now written a book, Sakka Neela Tara, in which he has come out with new facts. He's shown his repentance. He's dying of cancer. His son has already died. He has, in his book, said that 57,000 army soldiers were killed in the operation. And he says something like 75,000 army soldiers took part in the operation. He says...
How has all that come about?
I don't know. And in this discussion forum, someone is asking him that it's very difficult for us to believe it because it's totally opposite to what he has said in his book. He says, no, this is what is... And another person says, yes, I don't believe this story. Chap says, yeah. The book came on the shelf, but after 1 week it has been removed from the shelf. Another chap says, I have a copy of the book. So then another fellow says, then why don't you put a copy of that onto internet so that we all can read it? So someone is, this is malicious mischief directed against me and brought onto the internet.
Does it ever occur to you that, or you wish that this chapter had not taken place in your life?
Obviously, I wish I didn't ever have to be a part of this. I wish I didn't have to be a part of it, because after all, it's not a pleasant thing. I would rather go into war with my soldiers. I went into 71 war. I was awarded the Veer Chakra for gallantry there in the face of the enemy. It's much more honorable than having to take part in an operation of this nature.
Right. Thank you, General Brar. Thank you very much for sparing time and talking.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was retired Lieutenant General Kuldip Singh Brar speaking about Operation Blue Star. Even after 28 years, he is convinced that he did what the call of duty required him to do. Through this interview, we have tried to clear some of the doubts which have persisted since then. Will there be a sense of closure on the issue? What would that closure be? How would Sikh history judge him? We'll leave that to posterity to decide. Please send us your feedback, and thank you for watching.